The fluorescent lights of the corporate building cast harsh shadows across Alina's tear-stained cheeks as she stumbled through the empty hallway at 11:47 p.m. Her designer heels clicked against the marble floor like a countdown timer, each step echoing the finality of what she'd just decided. The termination letter crumpled in her trembling hand felt like a death sentence, not just for her career, but for everything she thought she was worth. She'd poured 12 years of her life into this company, climbing from intern to senior marketing director, sacrificing relationships, missing family gatherings, even skipping her own father's funeral for a client presentation. And for what? A pink slip delivered by a boss half her age who couldn't even look her in the eye when he said, "Budget cuts." At 42, starting over felt impossible. The mortgage payments, her mother's medical bills, the crushing weight of expectations, it all pressed down on her chest like a vice. She'd already made her choice about how this night would end, up on the roof where no one could stop her from finally finding peace. "Ma'am, you okay?" The gentle voice made her whip around, anger flashing in her eyes. A man in a janitor's uniform stood about 20 feet behind her, pushing a cart filled with cleaning supplies. He was probably in his late 30s, with kind eyes that seemed too soft for someone who'd clearly lived through his own share of hardships. A small photo taped to his cart showed a smiling little girl with pigtails. "Don't follow me," Elena snapped, her voice cracking with barely contained emotion. "Just don't, please." But Marcus Williams had been cleaning these offices for 3 years, working the night shift so he could take care of his 6-year-old daughter Lucy during the day. He'd seen that look before, the same hollow desperation that had consumed his own eyes when his wife died in a car accident 2 years ago, leaving him alone with a kindergartner and medical bills that threatened to bury them both. He watched Elena disappear into the stairwell, her footsteps echoing upward. Something about the way she moved, the finality in her posture, made his stomach clench. He'd felt that same darkness once, standing on a bridge at 3 a.m. while Lucy slept safely at his sister's house, convinced that his daughter would be better off without her broken father dragging her down. Marcus abandoned his cart and quietly followed Elena up the stairs, staying far enough behind that she wouldn't notice. When she reached the roof access door, she paused, her hand trembling on the handle. The cool night air hit her face as she stepped outside, city lights twinkling below like fallen stars. She walked to the edge, her breath coming in short gasps. This was it. No more struggling, no more disappointment, no more feeling like a failure. She closed her eyes and took a step forward. "Wait," Marcus called softly from behind her. "Please, just wait." Elena spun around, fury and desperation warring in her expression. "I told you not to follow me. Can't you just leave me alone?" "I can't do that," Marcus said, staying a safe distance away but close enough that she could see the genuine concern in his eyes. "Look, I don't know what you're going through, but I know that feeling. I've been where you are. You don't know anything about me," Elena said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. "You're right, I don't. But I know what it feels like when the world crushes you down so hard that you can't see any other way out. When you think everyone would be better off without you." Elena's shoulders began to shake. "They would be. I'm nothing. I've wasted my entire life building something that meant nothing to anyone." Marcus slowly pulled out his phone and showed her the photo of Lucy. 2 years ago, I thought the same thing. My wife had just died, I was drowning in debt, and I couldn't even afford to buy my daughter new school clothes. I stood on a bridge one night, convinced I was just a burden to everyone, especially her." Elena found herself listening despite herself, something in his quiet honesty cutting through her despair. "But you know what stopped me," Marcus continued. "I realized I was so focused on what I couldn't give her that I forgot about what only I could give her. Not money, not success, not any of that stuff. Just me, imperfect, struggling, barely hanging on me. Because I'm her dad, and nobody else can be that for her." Tears started flowing freely down Elena's cheeks. "But I don't have anyone who needs me. I'm all alone." "That's where you're wrong," Marcus said gently. "You think the only way to matter is through some big, important job or achievement. But do you know what happened to me last week?" Elena shook her head. "I was cleaning the 3rd floor, and Mrs. Patterson from accounting was working late. She was crying because her grandson had been bullied at school. I stopped and listened to her for an hour. Just listened. The next day, She brought me cookies and told me that conversation saved her from calling in sick for a mental health day she couldn't afford to take. I'm just a janitor, but in that moment, I was exactly what she needed. He took a small step closer. Every single day, I see people in this building who are struggling. The security guard whose son is deployed overseas, the receptionist putting herself through nursing school, the CEO who visits his wife in the memory care unit every lunch break. They don't need someone successful or important. They need someone who sees them, who cares enough to notice when they're hurting. Alina's legs felt weak. She sank down to sit on the ledge, but facing inward now, away from the drop. The thing is, Marcus continued, sitting down a few feet away from her, you can't see all the lives you've touched because you've been looking in the wrong places. Success isn't measured in job titles or bank accounts. It's measured in moments of connection, in the times you made someone feel less alone, in all the ways you've made the world a little bit brighter just by being in it. But I've lost everything, Elena whispered. No, you've lost a job. That's not the same as losing everything, even though it feels like it right now. I know because I've been there. When Sarah died, I thought I'd lost everything too. But I was wrong. I'd lost something precious, but I still had Lucy. I still had the capacity to love and be loved. I still had purpose, even if it looked different than I'd planned. Marcus pulled out his wallet and showed Elena a worn piece of paper. This is a letter Lucy wrote me last month for Father's Day. She spelled half the words wrong, but you know what it says. Daddy, you are my hero because you hug me when I'm scared and you make the best pancakes and you tell me stories that make me laugh. Not because I'm successful or important, but because I show up for her every single day. Elena found herself smiling through her tears. She sounds like an amazing kid. She is. And you know what? She's taught me that mattering doesn't require being perfect or having it all figured out. It just requires being present, being kind, and being willing to try again tomorrow. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the city humming with life below them. Elena felt something shift inside her chest. Not hope exactly, but maybe the possibility of hope. I don't know how to start over, she admitted finally. Nobody does, Marcus said. But that's the beautiful thing about starting over. You get to choose who you want to become next. Maybe this isn't an ending. Maybe it's just the universe telling you it's time for a new chapter. Elena looked at this kind man who had followed her into the darkness and somehow managed to light a candle in the overwhelming night. Why did you care enough to follow me? You don't even know me. Marcus smiled. Because someone once cared enough to follow me. And because I've learned that sometimes the most important thing we can do is refuse to let someone face their darkest moment alone. As they walked back downstairs together, Elena felt something she hadn't experienced in months. The sense that tomorrow might hold possibilities instead of just obligations. She didn't know what would come next, but for the first time in a long time, she was curious enough to find out. 6 months later, Elena would be working as a volunteer coordinator at a crisis intervention center, using her organizational skills to help train people like Marcus, ordinary heroes who understand that sometimes salvation comes not from having all the answers, but from simply refusing to let someone walk into the darkness alone. And Marcus would still be cleaning those office floors, but now he'd know that his real job had always been so much more than anyone realized.